Welcome back to Success with Steven. My name is Steven Smith. On this channel, we discuss all things financial literacy. And today we're going to be talking about the skill that you'll need to learn in order for you to never have to worry about money again. I think this is going to be a very important video. And this video will be more about the psychology of finances more than some technical skill. But what I will do is link a video at the end that will also give you a technical application in order to use these same methods in order for you to learn this skill so you can start making money and not have to worry about it again. Because one of the main things when it comes to learning about finances and making money is the way that you look at it. And I'm going to go into all the details because this, for me, again, I think it's a very, very important conversation, and you're going to get more value from this than you probably will get from any video teaching you about credit or business credit or anything like that. Because it doesn't matter how much credit you have, if you don't understand the way that money actually works, it does you no good. All right. So without further ado, let's get right into the video. Now, I really want you to first, before anything else, pay close attention to what I'm saying, because this is going to be very, very, very important. Whatever you think that you know about money right now, I'm asking for the next 20, 30 minutes. I'm not sure how long this video is going to be until I'm done with it. But for the next allotted amount of time that this video is, forget everything that you know about money. Just for a second. Whatever your preconceived notions are, whatever you've been taught without you even realizing it, I need you to stop for a second and completely just let that go. In order for you to learn this skill, you need to forget everything that you were taught. And if you were taught anything in school, then ask yourself, what did school actually teach you about money or financial literacy? And if you're like me, you're probably thinking school never taught me anything about finances or financial education. Doesn't that seem kind of strange when that's like one of the main things that you have to know in your life? I know it's not strange because I know that that was the way that it was supposed to be. You weren't supposed to really understand. So I want to say back when I was in high school, my senior year, I took a financial accounting course, something like that, like something very basic. Personal finance is what it was called, where they taught you a little bit about like taxes, a little bit about things here and there, but really nothing about money. And it was very, very basic. I mean, something that you may already know now. It's super basic. And in college, there are some other courses that you can take, like accounting. They have a couple more advanced financial classes that you can take that are very unbiased. But, you know, college, of course, unless you have a grant or unless you have a scholarship, can be very expensive. And by the time you get to that point, you're already indoctrinated in what America has already wanted you to know about financial literacy, which usually is nothing. And that's pretty much the answer to this question. What did school teach you about money? They taught you absolutely nothing. It wasn't a mistake. It was intentional. And the way to keep poor and middle class people working hard is to never teach them what the rich and the wealthy know about money. And I think that we all know to some degree that, you know, this is true. We're all aware of it because we all know that a lot of the things that are created systematically aren't created to our benefit. They're created to our detriment. I just think when you have so much going on in life, you have no idea where to start in order for you to actually understand exactly what's going on. And that's what we're going to talk about first. That's where we're going next. So what is financial education? And what does this have to do with this skill that I'm talking about? I'll tell you what financial education isn't. Financial education is not getting a job. Financial education is not working hard. It's not saving money. And it's not just investing money into a diversified portfolio and thinking you're going to retire. That's not financial education. Now, I'm not saying all of these things aren't important. It's just the way that these instruments are presented to you in a way that keeps you from actually using them to their maximum potential. For example, there's no such thing as saving money, and we'll really get into that. There really is no such thing. It's a myth. And just for clarification, because I know that some people, they listen to something and they take it very literal, but you have to understand that these things are nuanced. What I mean by that is I can say something that sounds simple on the surface, but it's actually very complex when you start peeling back the layers. There's a lot of details that go into this, okay? I'm not saying don't get a job. I'm not saying quit your job. I'm not saying that you should, if you're satisfied with your job, if you're satisfied with where you are, then that's fine. But I'm assuming that most people watching this, they're not satisfied with their financial position. And that's not surprising because, again, things are set up to actually be this way. Now, the financial industry is two things. And this is why I said I want you to forget everything that you know about money. The financial industry is really comprised of two things. The first one is debt. The second one is taxes. That is it. And this is going to be, again, hard for people to understand, but the US dollar itself is what we call a fiat currency. A fiat currency is debt. And fiat currencies, if you don't know, it's money issued by your government, and their value isn't tied to any physical commodity. And we're going to talk about that too. Now, in August of 1971, President Nixon took his top economic advisors to Camp David, and that was over 3 days. They made a radical, monumentous decision to cut the dollar loose from the gold standard. In the process, they unilaterally changed the whole global monetary system in those 3 days. Why is this important? Instead of the dollar being back to gold or silver, the dollar is just tied to a social contract where the American people have confidence in the American government that backs the currency. So as long as the people agree that the currency has value, then the value exists. But what happens when trust breaks down? I want to tell you something that, again, it should have been talked about. Someone should have told you in a history class. Someone should have told you in a finance class. And maybe they did in college, but you're not going to get this in public education. I don't even know if you get it in private school. But in the history of the world, the entire world, and this cannot be overlooked. The history of the entire world, there has not been one fiat currency that has been successful. Every fiat currency collapses 100% of the time. This is a 100% fail rate. If I told you guys to believe in something that fails 100% of the time, would you believe in it? It sounds crazy, right? The oldest currency that's still around today is the British pound. It's 1,200 years old. That's the oldest currency. Now, again, it's a 100% fail rate. So with me telling you that, does it mean that the dollar is going to fail in your lifetime? No, it doesn't. But you need to understand the dollar itself is not real. The dollar itself is fake. The dollar itself only has value because all of us agree on the same lie. And we all are like, well, if everyone else agrees on it, then it's true. But at some point, if this were a party, when the party stops, I don't want to be the one holding dollars, because when the party does stop, your dollars, they'll have no value. So with that being said, commodities like gold and silver, and to me, even Bitcoin, are real currencies. They are real, very much so. Now, of course, a lot of people, this is going to be like, oh, maybe you've heard this before. Maybe you just don't get it. Maybe you don't care. But the reason why you are in a financial bind is because you don't understand that the US dollar is already debt. It's already debt. And if you understood that, it would change your perspective on how you look at money. And changing your perspective on how you look at money would make you understand exactly why you can't get ahead. And once you understand that, then you'll be in the position to actually start to see some wealth. All right, so let's move on to the next segment. I said already that saving money will never make you rich. Why should you save money? Why should you work for it? The government can print money faster than you can make it. We know this because it's inflation. We already know this. Why does that make a difference? Believe it or not, whether you know it or not, when you sit money in a bank account and you don't do anything with it, you don't spend it, you don't do anything, it just sits. Your money's losing buying power. Why? They're printing money faster than you can make it. When money is printed at that alarming rate and it's a fiat currency, again, it's not real money. The reason why gold, silver, and Bitcoin are seen as real money is because there will only ever be so many of them. That way they retain value. If you can print something infinitely, it loses value. That's the reason why even if you have $100 in your account right now, next year your $100 may only be able to buy you $80 worth of stuff. The same $100 is in your account, but gas costs more, food costs more, eggs cost more, everything costs more. So you get less for the same amount you had last year. That's how they're taking away your buying power without having to take any money away from you at all. But you don't think about it that way. So because you can't actually see it from that perspective, it doesn't really seem like anything is changing when it actually does. Now, the next part that we're looking at is working for money. Again, this is nuanced, and you're going to understand what I'm saying by the time we get to the end. Wealthy people do not work for actual money. I don't mean they don't actually physically do anything in order to produce it. They don't work for it in the tax definition. So no one explicitly told you that they're training you to be a worker. You go to school, you do all these things, you learn this, they tell you you get a good job, education, all this other stuff. But without it being explicitly told to you, you're being trained in order to be a very good worker for the rest of your life. And it's very, very subtle. Your lack of education ensures that you come out this way. You don't want to work for money. And again, we'll talk about the differences when it comes to what that actually means. But by the tax definition, if you learn never to work for money, then you'll be wealthy. And again, we're going to get into that because as ridiculous as this may sound, it's true. And as you've probably seen, if you pay attention to anything that's ever gone on in the world, the truth sometimes is stranger than fiction. I mean, this stuff is so ridiculous that it's hard to imagine that anyone can make it up. But again, let's move on to the next part. The next part is your biggest expense. And again, we're going to get to the skill at the end. Just stay with me. What is your biggest expense? If you ask most people, they would say their biggest expense would be rent. Their biggest expense would be their mortgage, maybe your car note. If you're a husband, you might say your biggest expense is your wife. Your wife might say the biggest expense are the children. And this is a good question to ask because it lets me gauge someone's financial understanding and tells me where their values lie. Now, if you work a job, like a regular 9-to-5 job, the answer is the same for everyone. Your number one expense is taxes. And it's a funny thing because if that wasn't the first thing that came to mind, it's weird. You should kind of already know that that's the number one thing. You can get taxed up to 37% of your income depending on your tax bracket. 37% is very close to 40. 40 to me is very close to half. So that means that the government can take almost half of what you make. On top of you already receiving a currency or fiat currency that already loses buying power every second of the day, on top of you having to receive that, you also get taxed to death. And the reason why you get taxed is because of the type of income that you make. There are 3 different types of income. There's earned income. If you work a 9-to-5 job, guess what? You're taxed at the highest level you could possibly be taxed. It's called earned income. Reason why I said wealthy people don't work for money in the tax sense. Earned income is money that you work for. Nobody who's wealthy does that. They don't do it. The second one is portfolio income. You also may know this as capital gains. It's money that you get from an asset appreciating. Wealthy people buy assets. The other one is passive income. Passive income is money that you earn from your investments, but it's not the same as capital gains. It's money that will cash flow. And I'll give you an example of that. Earned income. If you get a job, remember what I said, wealthy people don't work for money. They don't get earned income. Only the middle and poor class get earned income. Now, the second one is portfolio. So if you buy a share of Apple for $100 and then you sell it for $200, that's called capital gains. And that would be portfolio income. Now, if you never sell your stock at all, that's called unrealized gains. And guess what? Unrealized gains never get taxed. I have an entire video that talks about how you can use unrealized gains in your portfolio to borrow against it, and you can have access to that money without ever paying taxes. It's what the wealthy, it's everybody wealthy does it. Every single one of them. It's the reason why someone like Jeff Bezos could have 260 some odd billion dollars and pay less in taxes than me. It's the exact way. And, you know, it's just something that was never taught to you, and it wasn't supposed to be. You weren't supposed to understand this. Now, the third one, passive income, is cash flow. Think about it like rental property, which, yes, rental income is taxable, but there are a few exceptions. You're typically allowed to reduce your rental income by subtracting expenses that you would incur from, rent, from from things that to maintain your rental property, just like cost, to the point where you could almost take whatever the costs are and reduce all the taxes to zero. So far, we've talked about forgetting everything that we know about money. The second thing that we talked about is the difference between real currency and fiat currency, real money and fake money, or think about it like this: assets versus dollars. In this case, because we're getting US dollars, assets are what will make you wealthy. Dollars, or holding on to dollars, will keep you poor. All right. We also know that the biggest expense that everyone has to pay with earned income is taxes, and wealthy people can avoid paying taxes with all of these tax loopholes by earning their money from portfolio income, capital gains, and passive income from assets. Okay, hopefully all of this is starting to make sense. And if it is starting to make sense, then, this is going to click for you, and you're about to, really learn a very, very, very powerful skill. Now, I'm going to give you one more example of passive income, just because I want you to understand how this works. Now, this is the passive income example. Now, let's assume that an investor owns a single family rental home that's worth $150,000. Now, for depreciation purposes, because your property might depreciate, the lot value is $10,000, and the annual income and expenses reported on a Schedule E Form 1040 looks like this. Now, this is the breakdown. The rent that you receive is $18,000, but you have to pay for advertising. That's $100. You have to pay for cleaning and maintenance of this property. That's $1,200. Insurance, that's $1,000. Management fees, $1,440. Your mortgage interest, if the property is financed, $4,500. The supplies that you have for the home is $600. Property tax, $1,800, right? My total depreciation is $5,091. So now when I take all of this stuff and I add it all up, I get $15,731. So the total rental real estate income for me is $2,269. And sometimes I could be at a loss. In this example, if you're an investor and you're in the 24% tax bracket, that's not the highest, but kind of right there in the middle, because again, income tax gets taxed really bad. Portfolio and capital gains, they get taxed at a lower bracket, not nearly what you get taxed for income. The tax bracket's 24%, and the federal income tax paid on the net rental income in this example, it would be $544.56. This is the reason that when people say tax the rich, it's almost laughable, because I don't think they realize that legally on paper, they pay their taxes. They just don't work for money. So because they don't work for money the same way you work for money, they don't get taxed to death. They know how to avoid it. They know how to keep that in their pocket. So most people don't realize there's three types of income, and that the rich don't have jobs. They have assets, right? They don't have that. So our kids go to school and never learn this stuff. They learn to be good workers. This is when you take your lunch. This is when you go here. This is when you do that. Just grooming you to get ready for the workforce, right? A lot of this stuff I learned by playing Monopoly. I don't think anybody plays Monopoly anymore. But this is all legal. This is all completely 100% legal. Anyone can do it. You can do it. Anyone can do it. People just lack the education or the willingness to actually learn this stuff. And now that we've talked about all of this, and again, this is all about learning a particular skill. And now we're going to get to the very end of this, where we're going to bring it all together, and we're going to talk about that skill. And then I want to give you one really, really good piece of information that really helped me a lot. Now, the skill that I'm talking about is using debt as money. Once you learn to use debt as money, you never think I can't afford it. You'll start to think, how can I afford it? Now, again, most people hear this and they think that debt is bad. Again, you have to forget all the stuff that you learned. This whole country is built on debt. Now, there's different types of debt. Sometimes there's actually good debt. The debt that I'm talking about is if you accumulate a certain amount of money, you can take on something like, let's say, a piece of real estate. You can then take a HELOC loan on that piece of real estate. You have a property that is appreciating. If it's appreciating, it's an asset. But you can also borrow against the equity of your home. Now it's appreciating and you could borrow against it to go make money. That's good debt. That's leveraging debt. What I'm not talking about is getting credit cards and spending it on things that don't do anything to make you money. That's just liabilities. All of this is risky. It doesn't really matter to me because I know the risk of just trying to collect a paycheck and being taxed to death with a currency that's already losing buying power. You want to talk about risk? That's risky to me. Very, very risky. You should be putting that fake money into some assets so you can actually figure out a way to preserve your buying power and actually create some passive income that won't be taxed to death, or maybe not taxed at all if you really understand your taxes, or you can pay someone who really does understand it and they're going to save you more money, or you won't have to pay anything at all, depending on how much you understand. Liabilities are things that take money out. Okay. That's liabilities, period. I don't care what anyone says. The US dollar is debt. It's all debt. Everything is debt. All that matters is how you are using it. That's all that matters. Okay. If you buy a big house, that can be a liability. That you just want a big house because you want to impress people. Yeah, that can be a huge liability because it's simply costing you money. Now, if you buy several small condos and you rent them out, potentially that could be an asset depending on how everything's broken down and how those properties appreciate. I don't care what anybody tells you. Money is created through debt. And again, that probably sounds like the opposite of everything that you've been taught your entire life. And you know why? Because they want to keep you poor. I'm not saying just simply borrow money and then try to make money. I'm saying that you have to figure out a way to, in the beginning, earn income, right? Once you earn enough, set some aside to then invest, to then be able to leverage debt, to then create either capital gains or passive income. That's what I'm saying. That's the whole thing. All right. I'm just showing you how I would start and how I would bring it up. But the thing is, a lot of people don't understand that this is how money works. This is actually how it works. It's not paying off all of your bills and having zero debt. That's not it. I know you think it is because that's what everybody tells you. Never. If you look at what wealthy people do and you tell me exactly which one is better. The only other ones that you can say that may have done something different is maybe they started a business and they, I'm Steve Jobs, Jeff Bezos, the Elon Musk of the world. Look at a lot of these people's resumes. Look at how much debt they took on. They took a risk. They took a chance on themselves because they believed in themselves. And then you see the outcome afterwards, and then they're all geniuses. But for some reason, you think that you can't do it too, and you actually can. You can do exactly what they did. You just need to know exactly what the difference is between all of these things. So if people just understood the tax code, or they understood the concept of money, and if debt was being taught in school in this way, more people would be prosperous, right? Because again, we're not talking about just spending money frivolously. We're talking about leveraging to gain passive income or income through capital gains, because it's a lower taxed form of income, not just earned income. Poverty is a mindset, and I've been saying this for a while, and it's an attitude. So right now, at this moment, I don't care how much money you have in your pocket. What I'm trying to tell you is you can have $0 in your pocket and you could start doing this today. Change your mindset. Stop thinking I can't afford it. I can't do it. I can't do this. I can't do that. If you keep saying that you can't do it, that's going to keep you poor. That was one of the main things that kept me broke. My lowest time was times that I kept saying I can't. You know, when things started turning around, when I stopped saying I can't and I started thinking, how can I? That changed everything. That changed my entire perspective. When someone says that they can't do something, it passes on. When your kids ask you something and you say, I can't do that, money don't, Do you realize that you're passing that on to them? And now they're going to think like that too. And then they're going to pass that on to their kids because all they know is, oh, if it's too much, I can't do it. That's not true. Money is a fictitious thing. It's not real. There are plenty of ways that you can do this, invest it, grow it, and have it coming back to you plentiful. It's not that complicated. It's just your mindset and your attitude that's holding you back. That's the second gem. Attitude is everything. Another phrase that really helped me a lot, and this is a phrase from the Bible, and however you feel about it, biblical work is pretty much a derivative of any other phrase that you could get from anybody else. I can almost link every single quote that I've heard to something that will link back to something that's biblical. Okay. So there is a phrase, the word became flesh, and that refers to the birth of Jesus Christ. But that's not, I'm not making this, I'm not trying to, like religious this out. Why I'm saying that is I take that phrase in two different ways. You can take the phrase literally or you can take it figuratively, but I take it that way because it describes how ideas become reality. Your words become flesh. Whatever you say that you can do can be done, and whatever you say that you can do will become reality. Call it manifestation, call it energy, whatever. I don't care what you call it. You can call it whatever you want. The thing that it is a mindset. It is a mindset. When you think you can't, you can't. When you think you can, and you will. It's up to you. That's really all that I could say. So what you tell yourself will become your reality. Again, you don't need money to change your attitude. And once you change your attitude, everything else changes around you. I promise you that. And again, if you want more actual steps that you could take, I have plenty of videos talking about, we're not just talking about psychology here. I have plenty of technical applications where it shows you how to do this stuff from start to finish, starting with credit, then starting with how to leverage your debt, but also making sure that you start a business to save on taxes. And then you also need to make sure that you're not just, earning your income. I'm not saying quit your job. Keep your job. Use your job to fund your business. Once your business starts making money, pull back on the job if you can. Lower your hours, go part-time, spend more time on the business until it makes so much more money than from your job that now it doesn't even make sense to keep this job. Leave that job. Again, I have videos about all of this. Leave that job and now start leveraging debt with your good credit and your assets and all of the financial stability that you built in your business. And from there, the sky is the limit. That's exactly how it works. Never stop learning, further your education, and just know that everything that you normally learn about money is a complete lie. You've never seen anybody get wealthy or retire in luxury from working their 9-to-5 job. You've never seen it. Maybe someone was comfortable and they're okay with that. I'm not knocking anybody that wants to do that. If you love your job, awesome. If you're watching this, I'm assuming that you want a little bit more. All right. So that's all I have to say about that. And that skill, use that as money. If you can acquire that skill, you never have to worry about money again in your life because, like I said, they print this stuff faster than you can make it. And it's not that complicated for you to do it. And anyone can do it. Anyone. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really make this kind of stuff because there's a lot of information on YouTube where I know that there's, especially when it comes to the finance space and when it comes to Black people, I feel like we get the short end of the stick because no one really wants to talk about the psychology of money. They just want to talk about, how you can get money fast. I get it. I understand. Like everybody wants to do everything fast. Everybody wants instant gratification. I understand why, but to be honest, you have to delay gratification and you need to understand that this thing is really it's a lifelong thing. It's not like a get rich quick. It's really like a sprint. And for the rest of your life, you're going to kind of be doing a run. But the faster that you accept that and the faster you start making actual life changes, the faster you're going to start seeing the results that you really want. And the results will stick. Nothing fast, nothing that comes quick ever lasts. I promise you. So while I see those people and they're making it and, they're getting compensated for doing that and getting the views, and I'm not knocking them, because for them, like, YouTube pays them like an employer. You know, it's a 1099. Hey, it makes me a little bit of money, but this isn't the end all be all for me, and I'm not taking that. I'm going to get my assets and get in and out of here. I'm not going to be here long. So while I am here, I just want to make sure that I'm giving as much great information as I can, and trying to reach as many people as I can while I'm doing it. Your intelligence increases through mistakes. Learn more, make more mistakes, read. I don't just do whatever you can to fill your mind with information and just learn, and then try to do things and then fail. You learn from fail. Business is business. Stocks are stocks. Like, all of this stuff is the same. What I learn on a daily basis is what makes me richer, not money. I'm telling you, when I say you can start today and life can change in the next few weeks, by next year, and even if life went bad, what you learned, you can repeat this exact same process again. I don't think I'll really ever have to worry about money again, just from understanding this concept. I really don't think I will ever have to worry about it. I'm not saying I'm going to be the wealthiest person in the world. I just think I'm going to be comfortable, because I don't even need that much wealth. I just need enough to be comfortable and to be able to do what I need to do for myself and my family, and go from there. I'm not in love with the stuff. The stuff is like drugs. I'm not a user like that. I'm just trying to get enough just so I can be comfortable and stable. That's it. I don't care for the capitalism stuff like that. The more money I make, the more I realize I really don't need money at all to make money. That is what I know. And all I need is this. This is all that I need. This is what got me here. And I got here by making mistakes. Don't be afraid of the process. The fear of failure will end up becoming your biggest limitation. So don't let it limit you. Okay? Fail. It's okay. It's okay to face your fears. It's okay to make mistakes. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for the attention, and you guys have a wonderful day.